the Growing for Market podcast.
When things get hard, leave. Leave the farm. The best decisions Lisa and I have ever made from a farm. I remember the first time we finally took an all-inclusive trip. We went to Cuba. As Canadians, we can go to Cuba, gorgeous beaches. We're sitting on the beach, and we made the most awesome decisions for our farm, thousands and thousands of miles away from the farm. So absolutely plan those times away. And I'm not talking farm conferences. I'm not talking about those easy things where you see, because you're still going, get the heck off the farm, go far away, take cold, like hard vacation time, even if it's 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, even better. Do it at least once a year, because you will make the best decisions for your farm when you're not worried about everything that's going on in your backyard.
You need to clear your head.
Yeah.
You did.
And that's over and over and over again for us, where we make the best decisions when we're not involved in the everyday grind.
Hello and welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, where we talk about growing, marketing, and the business of growing vegetables and flowers for local markets like farmers markets, CSAs, farm stands, and local wholesaling. I'm Katie Kulla, your host and a writer for Growing for Market magazine. For 33 years, the magazine for flower and vegetable market farmers. If you're enjoying the podcast, just wait till you see the magazine. Go to growingformarket.com for more. Also, if you could give us a follow and a rating, it really helps other like-minded people find the podcast. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
This is Nathan from Tilth Soil. The other day, I told a friend that I think any product advertised on a podcast is probably a scam. And now I get to eat my words because I really do think it's worth talking to serious growers about living soil. But instead of listening to me bloviate about root development or trace minerals, you're probably better off just trying it out. Go to tilthsoil.com/GFM to request a sample of our seed starting mix and see what your plants think. If you're not impressed, then forget we exist. But if you like what you see, then reach out and we can get into the details. Whether you need a yard, a truckload, or want help organizing a group buy, call or text Josh at 216-870-0642. And yes, I am reading his personal cell phone number in a podcast ad. All right, play the jingle.
I'm in my garden, the sun is shining, my plants are thriving in Tilth Soil.
We know it's peak season. You're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free, instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access today at farmhand.partners/GFM. That's farmhand.partners/GFM.
Hello, everyone. Today, I am talking with Steve and Lisa Cooper of Cooper's CSA Farm, a very diverse direct market farm located in Zephyr, Ontario, and serving the Greater Toronto area. Steve is a sixth-generation farmer and Lisa a first-generation one, and they started farming together in 1993. Their children are now the seventh generation of farmers in the family. Today, the Coopers operate a 400-acre farm with a market garden, pasture-raised animals, maple syrup, and an agritourism element, which we will talk about. They were honored in 2010 as Ontario and Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers. Welcome, Steve and Lisa. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. I always like to hear people's farming stories. Since one of you, Steve, comes from a farming family, it sounds like, and the other, Lisa, does not, it sounds like you might have taken different paths to agriculture. Can you share some of your story of becoming farmers together and how you came to farm and operate Cooper CSA Farm?
Well, I was born and raised as a farmer. When we got first married in 93, I was farming with my parents, and Lisa was working off the farm. And that's probably how we managed the first decade almost, right? Cash crop, beef cattle, very conventional farm. It was tough go in the 90s, tough to make money. We started diversifying. As I say that, where I grew up and the farms around us, we were always on busy roads near population. So to keep us busy as kids, my father sent my brother and I to the road with a load of sweet corn to move sweet corn. And that was sort of the summer job, even though we worked all the time on the farm, but that was the money we got to keep, I guess is the best way to put it. And that evolved out where even once Lisa and I got married, we still kept the sweet corn stand. We kept marketing on the side of the road. And it was like, it put me through college, and then it, paid a chunk of the first mortgage. And then as we got on, we got to realize by the late 90s, it's like, we maybe should do this more. And I got in the late 90s into plastic mulch and drip irrigation when it was very new, just to accelerate sweet corn, and then realized you could do other vegetables. And then Lisa ran off to a greenhouse and came home with a truck full of all types of vegetable plants and said, just plant it. So that's where the market garden started, very innocently. And I did. And it was kind of a mess. But at the same time, as we were doing that, farmers markets started to really pop up. And this would be 2000, 2001 in our area. And we were both very on the front end of establishing farmers markets in the area. So that became part of our direct marketing for the next good 10 years, probably. At this point, by 2004, we're doing multiple markets. Lisa had lost her really good off-farm job with her Carhartt clothing discount and discount on farm hardware, which was very
benefits.
And benefits. We always had kind of a goal that we wanted the farm to support us both well. And we kind of just made the decision that if this farm was going to work, that we're going to go all in and make it work. So Lisa joined the farm full-time, even though it probably wasn't pulling enough to pay 2 wages. We took courses, re-educated ourselves quite a bit, and started trying to figure out how we could make this operation pay. We had moved away from our parents' operation as well, so we were kind of on our own and figured things out. We got up to 9 farmers markets a week. And
that is a lot of farmers markets.
Oh, yeah, gypsying around and 9 farmers markets. Everyone that does it knows exactly what I mean when you say you gypsy. You are a giant caravan moving around the edge of the city is what it seems like. But they were good. It was a lot of work, but they were good. But we wanted something at home. Our road is quiet. We are close in the GTA. We're close to population, but it's pretty quiet. It's not something where a real good bricks and mortar farm store would succeed. So we started looking at agritourism through a leadership training. I did a corn maze not too far from here. And it's like, I can do this. We could do this. So we put in a corn maze, and that was 2006. And the farm tour, market garden. And in that first tours, when tens of people were showing up at the farm, it was a big deal to get tens of people at that point. But we were running these tours. We were very dedicated to it. And someone, I think I was showing someone how to pick a ripe watermelon in August. And they jumped up to, this is amazing. I want to be a part of this. And that was a kind of a light bulb moment. It's like, I've heard of something like that. And that's where the CSA sort of started to come into fruition when essentially a customer told us, we want to be part of your farm somehow. And that's 2007. There's a book that was quite popular, local food, 100 Mile Diet, the book, The 100 Mile Diet. I've all heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, the author showed up for a book signing at a town in Aurora, very close to us.
Cool.
The people at the library, I think, knew us from a farmer's market and invited us out to set up a booth. And between that and good on Lisa at the farmer's market, she had an email list in the mid-2000s of like 1,000 people of our customers already. Between email lists and then that book signing, we signed up in 2007, 50 people to be part of a CSA. And that started that journey. So it was sort of agritourism led to a CSA, and then that really started ramping up for us really well. And that changed everything we do, because for us, having the CSA, packing a box or a basket full of produce, no shrink as compared to a farmer's market, and it comes up rain halfway through the day and the place is abandoned, and what do you do with the rest, right? Mm-hmm. You really like that. We're working at home now. We're packing at home. We started home delivery right away with our CSA. We thought a key component for us was to be taking it right to the people. I like the idea of one van going to 50 homes as opposed to 50 cars coming to us. So it just seemed to make sense back then. And of course, now in today's age, home delivery is everything. So
oh boy, is it.
We were well built for that, because we earned our lumps very early on in the home delivery side of things. It grew. It exploded with the local food movement and everything that went on. Really grew very rapidly, 2018, 2019. We started cutting back on farmers markets quite a bit because it was, we're driving enough business. And also the agritourism side by then was starting to build nicely too. Like we were getting a very good following. We kind of tightened up the season, realized that our agritourism with the corn maze and you-pick pumpkins was a late September to end of October thing. So we kind of focused on that 6-7 weeks and got up to, a good year. We're having 12 to 15,000 people come through the farm at that time of year. So that's a nice chunk of business too that we really helped offset off years. It's sort of that piece of diversity we liked. And another tool to introduce people to the farm because everything's right on the farm. So it all works together that way. So that's kind of gets to where we are. Pandemic, like a lot of direct farm marketers, we're kind of lucky. We already had home delivery established. We already had a good online presence. We already had a good system. We were with Small Farm Central Harvey at that point. So we were already we knew our tech, we knew our stuff. So when business exploded, we could handle it. And then on the production side, by 2018, 2019 too, we were much more into livestock, back into cattle, pastured poultry, all the things. So I had enough connections that we could keep everything stocked through the pandemic and keep going and fill as many orders as possible. The conversation we had as a family was like, this is a gift where our phone and emails are going off the hook and people are lined up at grocery stores. Are we going to hunker down and hide like some farms did? Or are we going to jump up and say, we're going to do everything we can to fill every order? And we're crazy. And we tried to fill every order and we drummed up, we didn't keep every single customer from that stretch, but we kept a lot of it that has carried on into today. Yeah. So that is now the driver, the CSA home delivery with the meats and the veggies. And we have a commercial kitchen as well that was added through that stretch. That's what we do.
Thank you for sharing that. It seems like a little bit different than a lot of the farmers I interview. I interview a lot of first generation farmers who got into farming because they were smitten by that direct market model. But it sounds like you were already there and then came across this as you evolved, which is a different journey than what we normally talk about.
So my farming escapades with my father in the 90s and trying to cash crop and do cattle at the bottom of a cattle cycle put us in about a $500,000 hole before we even started direct marketing. So, so that's sort of how but granted, some great advantages in terms of equipment and farming knowledge and all the background that really did help. I knew fairly early on, especially I love the small market gardens, the half acre, 1 acre, the I don't want to say plot size, they're farms, it's all hand work, but we kind of had that advantage where we had larger equipment and we could scale whatever we needed to scale. And then the livestock background, we realized pretty quick was our competitive advantage because we have acreage and livestock simply, if you have cattle, you need acreage, right? It's as simple as that. So that sort of led us that direction. And even the crops that I said at the beginning, what did I start selling? Sweet corn as a kid on the side of the road. That's not a crop you see in a lot of small market gardens. Like the stuff we were good at early were not the common thing that you see in today's, because they're acreage scale things. So
right. It seems like the most common thing people start with is like salad mix, high touch, but that you can do multiple rounds of in a year if you have a small plot. But you had the other advantage. You had a lot of room and the equipment to do. That's cool. So, okay, we've touched on this already with my intro and your story, but give us kind of the landscape of Cooper's CSA Farm as it exists today, the scale, the enterprises. What right now are you all doing?
Right now, we have 100 acres that we live on, and then we rent 300 acres.
It's all within family.
It's all within family. 100 acres belongs to our son, and the other 200 acres belong to Steve and his dad at the other location, and then 100 acres is ours here. We keep the majority of the cattle at Steve's dad's place. We have pigs and chickens and turkeys and some cattle here occasionally at the home farm.
Numbers.
Right, numbers.
Cattle is 50 cows, cow-calf right now, and then grazing backgrounding all the calves from that. So right now there's 50 head on pasture. We have varying weights because it all goes into our freezer beefs part of the operation. So we finish off everything that we raise. So that's the beef side. And sometimes we buy in some, sometimes we sell some off commercial. Depends on the market at the time, but 50 beef, cow, calf. There's always about 40, 50 pigs on feed. Pasture poultry is 3,000 broilers every summer, which is what we're allowed to do under a program here in Ontario called the artisanal program. A few layers and a few turkeys make up the livestock side of things. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so other enterprises. So then we also do one farmers market now. And actually, that's one that we've been doing. I actually started that one back in 2000. So we just had our 25th anniversary this year. And I was the market manager for about 23 of those years. And so that's part of our income stream, as well as Steve decided about 8 years ago that, and he came to me and said, I'm not going to get a girlfriend. I said, that's good. And I'm not going to go and spend a whole bunch of money on some stupid car or anything like that. I said, okay, that's good.
This is a midlife crisis.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, no, I hear where we're going with this. And I also, when you said girlfriend, I thought, or a car. Okay, instead.
Instead, I'm going to buy a big, shiny evaporator, and I'm going to get into maple syrup.
Okay.
So he went and took a mentorship program and decided, because at the back of the other farm, there is a nice maple forest. And we thought, well, what better way to make some money off some unusable land than to do some maple syrup program. And initially, when we started that, we had about, 300, maybe 400 families on our CSA program. And we actually went to them first and asked if they would help initially fund the program for us to start our enterprise. And we got about a third of the money from them, a third of the money we put up ourselves, and then a third of the money we got through the bank. Yeah, so then we started that, and we're up to about 1,100 taps now. So we do about 1,100 liters of syrup every season. So that's mostly Steve's baby. He enjoys being out there and the solitude.
And we don't need to travel in late February, March, or early April anymore either. Why would we want to do that? So.
No, you don't want that time off.
No.
No
time off.
Yeah.
So you get January to travel?
Yeah, we get about 5 weeks where we can actually leave the farm.
That's enough.
It's better than a kick in the ass.
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Maple syrup's pretty fun for us because we have the bush asset.
Yeah.
And then a good friend of ours, not too far from here, had the same thing. We were able to rent his set of woods as well. Yeah, we're Canadian, and maple syrup is a Canadian thing, and the equipment's all Canadian, and the tech's all Canadian. And a lot of small farmers, like one of the things that's hard to get into is good technology. It just doesn't really, there's not a lot of options for us. But the maple industry is actually a lot of the tech that's available for the monstrosity commercial producers is also available to that small, medium size. So
nice.
That was kind of fun. That was an attraction. It's like, I can get into reverse osmosis and some digital draw stuff and some technology that go with it to make the job a lot easier. So whereas, we're not of a scale to put GPS or RTK in any of our tractors or anything like that. At least with maple, we can kind of play, and I can talk the talk and walk the walk with the big guys because we have the same tech, right? So that's a little bit of farming there maybe, but that's the fun part.
When you were talking about that, it kind of reminded me, the county I live in Oregon, is a very wine growing, producing area. And some of the language you just used, it kind of reminded me of the wine industry. And it's similar in that industry that it can scale down to, which is, like you said, very different than some farming worlds, but that's cool. And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Today's episode of the Growing for Market podcast is brought to you by BCS America. On our farm, we've had our BCS two-wheel tractor for over a decade, and with no belts to slip, its all-gear-driven construction is still going strong. Though we originally got it for rototilling, we kept it even when we went mostly no-till because it can do so many other things around the farm. From snow blowing to making raised beds with the rotary plow to chipping wood, it can do just about anything you might need on a farm with the right attachment. Need to shred a cover crop? A BCS flail mower will make quick work of even the most vigorous cover crop and chop it up so it breaks down quickly. Want to stir in compost or amendments without inverting soil layers? A power harrow turns your BCS into a precise tilthing machine with depth control so you don't mix deeper than you want to. With so many attachments to choose from, it truly is the Swiss Army knife of farm implements. It's why, instead of saying two-wheel tractor, so many people just say BCS. Tractors and attachments are on sale through the end of the year. Visit bcsamerica.com to find sale pricing and your nearest dealer. A well-built high tunnel is one of the smartest investments a small farm can make. It protects your crops, extends your season, and keeps income rolling in even through winter. Nifty Hoops builds complete Gothic high tunnels that are easy to install and built to last. Their easy, bolt-together construction makes setup straightforward and efficient, whether it's a small backyard hoop house or a dozen large production-scale high tunnels. Especially through their community build option, where professional builders work alongside your crew, family, or neighbors to build each structure, usually in a single day. Most growers go with Nifty's full setup: steel-framed end walls, roll-up sides, baseboards, double plastic with inflation, automated vents, and real doors, all priced to make the best choice the easy one. Nifty is a small crew out of Michigan using U.S. steel and working hands-on with growers across the country. They'll help evaluate your site, handle NRCS paperwork, and if they're building with you, they'll even float your cost share until after the build. Visit niftyhoops.com to learn more. Farm more seasons. Grow more food. Nifty Hoops.
And now, back to the show. Okay, I want to complete this picture of your farm. I'm not super familiar with the rural Ontario landscape. So can you give us a picture of kind of what is the land like? What are your growing conditions like and climate? I mean, I just know right off bat your winters are colder than mine. But what else do we need to know just kind of about, is it like rolling hills? Is it flat? What's your soil? What are you working with out there?
The ground that we have is decent ground. We're in South Central Ontario, we call it, like just north of the city. A lot of the farms are good corn and bean ground farms, so there's a lot of corn and soybeans as well. There's a lot of potatoes. Our farm at one time before we had it was a potato farm. Lots of unique vegetables grown. So it's class 1, class 2 type lands. Corn heat units, heat-wise, we're about between 2,900 and 3,000 corn heat units. So if we use that terminology, I have no problem planting 120-day stuff and maturing it out, if that makes sense. So not rolling, not too bad. For grazing cattle, we don't have a lot of rough land for grazing. We're taking good cropland and we're putting it into alfalfa orchard grass and grazing alfalfa orchard grass. And on a system where we're moving the cattle every day, like we're getting 4 passes on that, which we have to do to compete. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So that's always a consideration. Like, how do you get cattle on top crop ground? How do you outbid corn and bean guys, right? Like, that's always an ongoing consideration. We're right near the city, so we have a lot of traffic, a lot of cars, a lot of rural residents. So there's a pretty good pressure for land from folks with lots of money in the city looking for that 100-acre estate lot. That's a very common thing. Our actual county or region is Durham region, and we also sit on the border of another region called York region, directly north of Toronto. York region is about 1.2 million people. Durham region's about 1.2 million people, and then Toronto, 4 million people. Lots of people, lots of suburbs, lots of pressure. Our farm is in something called a green belt, which is protected from development, and we're right on the edge of that. And that, when it came in, was kind of a sore point, and good and bad, but it is what it is. I don't like farmers' rights to do what they want with their land taken away from them, but that's sort of what happened. But I get the protection side too. Like, there's 2 sides to it.
Right.
So very busy area with lots of people, lots of rural residents. So not only are you dealing, like, our home farm has 14 individual neighbors around the boundary. So, when we do something that's very farmy, we have to be cognizant of all of our neighbors. And out of 14, you're darn right someone's going to be complaining. And we do. That's just something we deal with. That's what all farmers deal with. We do no different than states where you're farming near a big city. Same thing. A lot of the same. Mm-hmm. So, good ground. Winter's being cold. We're kind of situated between Lake Ontario, Lake Simcoe. Not as cold as you think. I mean, we do touch minus 20, minus 25 Celsius, but not for very long. We spend a lot of time in the winter.
That seems very cold to me.
Oh, yeah. Compared to Oregon, I guess that would be cold.
I mean, we have listeners all over the country and continent. So, some of them are probably like, yeah, that's reasonable. And others are probably like, oh, that's really cold.
I couldn't imagine going out and feeding cows at -40. So like that's just a no-go for me, right?
Fair.
It's weather there. So
Or the northern states. Yeah.
So, okay, are there at least any tax benefits from that greenbelt status, or did they give you anything in return? No. Oh, interesting.
what we do have is, as a farmer, you belong to a farming group like the Ontario Federation of Agriculture or the Christian Federation Farmers Federation, or there's like 3 or 4 of them you can belong to. So we belong to one of those, and because we belong to that, we actually get something called our farm tax rebate. So we pay our taxes for our land, and then we get a good chunk of that back because we belong to these unions.
That has nothing to do with the green
nothing
belt.
to do with the green belt.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because like every area, Ontario is very unique. I mean, like a lot of areas, like our land's based on what the glacier dropped, right? And so it makes very diverse areas. You can drive 2 hours and find another pocket of completely different ground. But this green belt, which makes sense, slowing down development and making smart development, I get. It revitalized a lot of our small towns and small hamlets. They got much better, so that's great. Honestly, the people that pushed the greenbelt through, I think their honest goal was just to turn it all into parkland that they could walk all over whenever they want, with no consideration to anything for the business of agriculture. You know, in the business of ag, we need abattoirs and grain elevators and storage facilities and all the things. And those aren't happening in the greenbelt. And there's no talk of a terroir or something unique or some money put toward building that out like you see in France or in other areas. It's just like we exist. And then they'll come out with a program and they say, oh, yeah, this is put together by the greenbelt, but we'll make it available for the entire province. So the farmers in the greenbelt have no advantage whatsoever.
Interesting.
Other than, so that's, you know, if you got listeners out there and their municipalities or their towns are talking about protecting land, it's like, well, if you're going to protect it, if you really want agriculture, do something to let the things happen that agriculture needs, because a lot of the time it happens and that's not considered.
Do you have right to farm laws in Canada and Ontario? Is that a thing?
Not
We
per
have
se.
those in the U.S. and in Oregon. Okay.
I guess it depends on the extent. There is on the agritourism side, we just got a bill passed here that gives us some protections
From getting sued.
From being sued when the public's on your farm.
Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah. I know states in the U.S. have been doing that too, about liability, and you can post signs like, you're on a farm. Different rules apply, basically.
Yeah.
But right to farm, I mean, for pulling water, we're still supposed to get permits for pulling water. We have to get permits even for agricultural buildings, and they can be a nightmare to do. I mean, we've never had anyone come and say, or heard of anyone coming and saying to somebody, you can't plant that. You can't be on your big tractor doing that.
Right.
But,
like you have to stop making dust or noise. Those things you still can do.
yeah.
There's a base set of agricultural practices that are accepted, and that's kind of a known in most municipalities. So that's allowed. It's when you go, and like a lot of small farms, unique farm, entrepreneur farms tend to work outside those boundaries a little bit, right? That's where it gets dicey when you start talking wedding venues, meat processing, things like that, right? That's where, but if you're just straight line, raising cattle, milking cows, growing grains, growing vegetables, there's nothing. It's pretty straightforward.
Initially, when we started doing the CSA and the on-farm entertainment, we put an old shed into our farm store, and we had to go ask permission to turn it into a farm store. And they said, well, as long as everything you're putting through there is what you're making, what you're growing, then that's fine. But we also want you to rezone 1 acre to commercial. So we have a zoned 1 acre commercial
Right in the middle of
our farm. And now the rules have changed since then. And now you don't have to do that. You have every right to put a store up. So, or use some existing thing and have a store. So it's,
And it is what it is. It worked out for the best. And I think being on the very front end of that kind of stuff sort of help. When you're doing something that no one knows anything about, you help make the rules, right? And I think we played a role years ago. We helped make the rules for the area, because if you don't get them there and advise, someone else will make the rules for you, and that may not be beneficial.
Okay, so I want to talk about your CSA because it feels and seems pretty unique in terms of the vast amount of offerings you have. And it also looks as though there's a choice component. So can you describe what makes your CSA unique, how you operate it, what the logistics of it are, because it seems really cool.
So going back in time when we started CSA, and it was a true CSA to the point where we even changed our farm name to Cooper's CSA Farm because we realized there was no name recognition for CSA. Nobody knew what it was. So we spent a lot of time defining it rather than calling it the Canadian Safety Authority, which is a thing up here. But we started off as a very standard CSA. We literally used bushel baskets as the carrier. It was based on what we had in the garden, 20 weeks, and it was all produce. And I decided what went in the basket based on what was ready that week. We started evolving. It was 2 years or 3 years later, realizing that people were really, there was enough customers really latching onto it. So we started to offer eggs and going back to our roots with livestock, which was a really easy thing to do. So we started adding poultry and chickens and then eventually back into beef and then pork as well. So we started adding options. So we'd have a vegetable share and then we'd have a meat share.
No, we actually had a beef share, a chicken share, and a pork share.
That's right.
And an egg share. And a vegetable share.
And back in the day, it was all...
That's a lot of moving parts suddenly.
That was a lot of management.
And I remember it was all managed at one point on QuickBooks and Outlook. We managed the whole thing before platforms were a thing. And then eventually we got onto a reasonable platform through Farmigo. That's where we started.
Yeah.
Evolved again over the years through there where we realized, well, this is a pretty good deal. Maybe we can operate close to year round. So we'd have the 20-week summer season and then offer a bi-weekly through the winter and early spring. So we were doing that for quite a while. But through research, through talking to customers, it always came down to flexibility for customers, like the ability to come in and come out when they need to. I think like everybody across North America, a lot of our customers are pretty affluent and they've got summer schedules and cottages and trips, or they're running their kids all over the countryside. They need a bit of flexibility, and a rigid CSA doesn't offer that at all. And then add in the piece of selection, being able to choose what they want was becoming more and more prevalent, that if we were going to continue long-term, that we had to change a little bit. We were always pretty good. Ups and downs through the years, lots of customers on the start, then it kind of tapered, but Lisa's and all of us here were always pretty good. It's like, well, we've got our core customers. What can we do to get those customers buying more? Right? So maybe you keep new customers, but maybe you get your existing customers to buy more. And that started the piece of adding more items, whether like the beef, pork, chicken, some stuff from other farms, unique items. Our own commercial kitchen went in 2012. So we started offering some baked goods and some preserves and simple things like
value
that.
Added to our
so value added to what we already had. So the number of items or number of SKUs keeps starting to climb and gets, it goes back to that. We're pretty firm in believers that 10% of your customers, well, maybe 15% of your customers, let's say 10% of your customers make 90% of your sales, or 80-20, whatever that number is. So we spend a lot of time focusing on that 20% rather than chasing new customers. So that led to more SKUs and increased buy each time. So that's been increasing. So it led us from a platform to manage this because we're farmers, and Lisa's a pretty good administrator, but she's not that level. We need a piece of technology to help her along, some software. So it started with Farmigo, and we went with that for a long time. And then it was Simon Huntley at Small Farm Central originally was floating this idea around of this thing called Harvey, where it was full selection and a little more evolved, I suppose. So we got in on that right at 2018, took a chance, and they were still building the platform. They didn't have anything for meat when we joined, and a chunk of our business was meat. So the original was sort of built around some input, a lot of input from us and a couple others. Is like, hey, we do, eggs and beef and pork. We need to incorporate that. So grew with that and stuck with that up until
December 31st, 2024.
Until they didn't exist anymore.
When they closed down the platform.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Shocker.
So we were forced to change, and we were looking to change. Harvey was good, but not all-encompassing.
And very expensive.
Yeah, I'll use farm terms. It was like high-end John Deere versus, your baseline, I don't know, Fiat or something lower value, Indra or something like that. Like we were paying really good. It was working, and we got, when you get into a platform, and anybody that does that where you're using computer software, there's never a perfect platform, but you adapt a little bit, you make your little novel changes. And we had that with Harvey. So when they sent the word out, and it goes part to they switched how they do operations. They have their own distribution, and they were building a platform just for themselves to run out of Pittsburgh where they are. And they basically ended the farmer service side and gave us lots of notice. So,
well, 3 months, if you think 3 months is lots of notice, I don't know.
Yeah, August. Yeah,
anyway,
we had time. Oh, it's a big change because there's
massive.
The two of us plus 4 or 5 other staff doing one thing the same way. Change is so much fun. I mean, I can change in farm.
I know. Don't we all love it?
I'll change a crop or a practice out there, but we were really comfortable in our setup. It was a little bit hard. So we started shopping other platforms, and we looked at 3 or 4 others that might be a fit. And it ended up being Local Line was the company we ended up going to.
Which is a Canadian company.
Which was really, we weren't looking for a Canadian company. We were just looking for the right fit, but it was certainly nice to pick up the phone and talk to someone. And we're talking about delivery areas, and the young lady that was helping us get set up lived in the area we deliver in. So
she totally knew exactly what we were talking about and postal codes.
That was very different from us, because we usually had to translate to Canadian for a lot of the folks in the States too, or you folks in the States, which is fine. It worked. We made it work. So that was kind of unique. But by accident, didn't expect that. Local Line isn't a true CSA platform. They are offering a subscription element. So I mean, maybe at least you want to explain the subscription side of it and how we evolved that.
Yeah. So originally like Steve said, we were originally a CSA model. So people would buy in at the beginning of the season, pay up in full, and they would get their 20 weeks or whatever they chose and pay up for each different one that they signed up for. And we kept going with that pretty much until a couple years ago with Harvey, and we stopped making people pay up in advance. We actually moved to the single
pay as you go.
Pay as you go. Thank you. I don't know if that got us any more customers. I don't know if it helped, but I mean, the way that the economy is, we kind of saw that as something that would be a huge hindrance for people to have to pay $450, $750, $1,000 up front all at once, depending on what they signed up for. So we went to the single pay, and they seemed to be very appreciative of that. But then we also had our own, if you continued to pay in advance, that we would give you bonuses. And so we kind of went that route. Now with Local Line, there isn't really a subscription option. So people generally pay as they go, but we do offer the pay in bulk, and I'm going to give you a percentage of what you pay back in a bonus credit on your account.
So you give us $1,000, let's say, Lisa, we put $1,050 up on your account.
Yeah.
So and look, people do take
that.
Yeah,
we get a lot of people who take it, and a lot of people who do know that it's really helping support us initially, just like the whole CSA model at the beginning of the season, but they just continue to do it throughout the season. So once they've exhausted their $500 or $1,000, they just send me another $1,000, and I just keep putting it back on their account with the bonuses. And a lot of, I would say probably, I don't know, 15, 20% take that, give or take.
In varying levels.
Yeah. It could be $250. It could be $2,500. It literally is whatever people want to put on their accounts to utilize.
So at this point, they put money on their account, and then each week they come in and sort of choose what they want that week, and it could vary a lot. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we let them choose their own schedule. Someone wants to order, they will. Every other week, great. Every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, literally every 2 months. It doesn't matter. We let the customer decide, because we saw the way this our economic climate is going. People need to be able to do what works best for them economically, and to demand that someone take something every single week doesn't work for a lot of people. So we just let them decide how often they want to order from their end.
And within those changes, we realized the customers started changing how they buy too. Yeah. Another change that came with Local Line is we started going no more bi-weekly. We were just weekly, and we're 46 weeks a year we're delivering. So we're pretty much out there packing 46 out of the 52 weeks. That's a bit of a change, and it's working, and it's moving meat for us quite well. It's moving kitchen items, our bakery and prepared food stuff well. And it also giving customers full choice of their schedule. We found they are placing less orders, but the orders
dollar value
bigger. We went from an average of $55 to about $102 average order. And we've always said we like packing bigger orders like that. We much prefer to really big order. We have a $45 minimum before you can buy anything. That's sort of and that's kind of like the CA. You got to buy enough to make it worthwhile. We're not going to bring you $5 of kale. Like, that's not going to work.
Right, because this is home delivery still.
Yes.
Is that right?
Home delivery option, yeah. It's the majority.
Yeah.
And we charge for that. We're not, we're not Amazon. We do it for free.
Okay.
But if someone orders $100 worth of product, we actually give them free delivery.
Yeah, if they order $200.
So I will have one, like I would say maybe 5% of our $200 orders are the people who order once a month, $200 to get that free delivery. So they're getting a ton of freezer stuff and yeah.
So those numbers are like a full grocery shop for people. This isn't, when they put in the orders, it's not just like a couple vegetables.
We've not gotten into dairy at our end because dairy is a different thing in Canada versus the US.
Some
And
things we don't touch.
We just haven't figured that aspect out. But with Local Line, the movement to Local Line, we could easily incorporate dairy if we wanted to. We would just have to obviously buy it from a certified dairy and then sell it ourselves. But would be
right. But at this point, they could be getting bread, they could be getting vegetables, meat, and eggs.
Bread, eggs, cookies.
A lot of those add-on stuff that we're not producing and working with an outside provider more didn't come because we went looking for it. It was like, because Lisa's still involved with farmers markets and the small scale artisanal side of business, that it just seemed like, hey, you might be a good fit. Or they came to us and we go back and forth. And, because when you're dealing with outside vendors, top quality product, but then they got to be able to deliver it on time and be consistent and have all the things that don't make it annoying for us. So we got to make it easy.
As long as it's easy, it's just, I get it. I put it in the box or the bag or whatever and send it, then it's perfect.
We never went and said, wow, we need a sourdough bread provider. It's like we made a connection with a guy who we thought might be a good fit for us. And it was, and it's worked out great.
Works out well.
Granola. We didn't go looking for Melissa. It just sort of worked out. So that's sort of how we add items. We're not out there actively looking for dairy to put into our, if the right fit was there, we'd add it. We're still farmers. It's our farm produce first. We make no bones about it.
Yeah.
So
farm produce and meat, our meat. Not that we have, right?
So how many days notice do they give you before, because this still sounds like a lot of logistics on your end to make sure there's the right number of vegetables and bread and stuff.
Yeah, so
vendor to vendor.
Yeah, vendor to vendor. But we open up our online farm store at about 6:00 on Friday nights. And then we close it again by 2:00 Sunday afternoon. So our customers have just shy of 44 hours, 40 hours, somewhere in there to place the order for whatever they want. And then, so we close the store and then we start doing all the paperwork to get it all organized and, laid out for us for the week. And then we start packing the stuff on Monday. And then Tuesday's our first delivery day.
So outside vendors, they have to tell us before Friday on what kind of volumes and what they can provide. And then they have to have it here on time for our pack. No different than if I'm a vendor as a farmer providing stuff, I got to kind of figure out what I'm going to have the following week in veggies and ballpark that out.
And you're having to figure out what you have in the fields too. You're part of this equation as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. And maybe if you're new at it, but once you've been doing it been at it long enough, we have a pretty good idea what's coming on. So
this is our 19th season, 19th year this summer. Started in 2006.
It can be tricky. Like we're into strawberries right now, and that can be fickle on weather. So a giant 3-inch rain event can muck up strawberries. But customers are also pretty flexible. We're within the platform. We have the ability, even though their orders places like, hey, you're getting a substitute. We can do that if we have to. Or we'll make it work one way or another. Not very often we have to do that, but it does pop up. And that's just the farm part. So that's where we're at now, and it's working, and we've kind of, we're about 6 months into Local Line, and I think we've got it.
Yeah, we've got it down pretty much.
That's how you connected with us, was through someone at Local Line. Is that right?
They recommended you as an interesting farm for us to reach out to, which I appreciated.
Yeah, but the diversity side, and I mean, we're running about 300 or 320 SKUs, like 320 items on our store actively right now, which seems like a lot, but there's Lisa, myself, and then 2 others managing inventory as well for the different segments of the farm, whether it's the freezer, the baked goods, the dry goods, the veggies, the meats. So we break it up. It's sort of a number of us doing it, not just that. We have about a bank of 800 customers, but they're not all placing orders. It's not like that. Right. But a good number of them are. And so that's what we're trying to where we're going with it, because we don't even know where we're going.
No, it's funny. We were saying right now, Steve, we talk about having the right amount of stuff in the bakery and allowing the kitchen staff to be able to tell us what they're going to produce. And And we're like, oh, we could probably sell way more of these. And Steve always says, well, we're not Cooper's Cookie Farm. And I'm like, well, we're getting close to being Cooper's Cookie.
It goes back to the business side of it too. Growing fresh produce is great, but it's a really tough business, highly perishable product, and generally low value product, right? Like whether it's a little bit of lettuce in a bag, it's $5 or $10, or you've got a quart of strawberries at $7 or $8. It's still not a $40 chicken, or it's not the higher value stuff, and that's sort of the tricky part where. How do we keep that average buy going up? And it's certainly not going to be through kale, radishes, and spring onions, right? Like that's the trick. That's the stuff that was the base that got us going. But we see that, and that's changing. And then our kids are involved in the farm. They're fully grown, son and daughter-in-law. They're the other two decision makers of the farm, and they've succession. I mean, I don't know if you get into succession too much in your podcast yet, but it is a thing in agriculture that's done very badly right across North America.
Yes.
We've been focused since our guys were about how are we going to do this and make this work, that if they want a farm, that there's something to come into and it works for everybody. So we realize they're going to start having some say, and they have some say, and is there a long-term future in us growing a whole lot of produce? There may not be. It may end with me. And the farm changes a little bit. So
they love doing the meat. They love doing the animals. They're both very good with the animals and the rotational grazing and the planting of their feed and the wrapping of the hay and all that really good stuff for the animals. But the actual farming, they just don't love the nitpicky vegetables, dealing with so many employees to make that vegetable go from seed to the box. And we get it, because Steve will tell you the same thing. It's a pain in the ass.
Well, it's
a lot of moving parts.
It's a small burden to do customers, but even we found out, because we've dropped back on farmers markets, we've sort of lost an avenue for some of that produce that really kept high quality produce in the CSA and really good produce at farmers markets. When you take one away, it's like it gets harder to grow the right amounts. And one of the focuses we've always had since we started is we've stayed away from wholesale. And we said, if we're going to do this, we're going to be solely, like, we have so much diversity that we need to be focused somewhere. So our focus comes into dealing direct with the public. We will be direct sales. We're not going to run wholesale accounts. We're not going to run around restaurants. We're not going to try to cater to that. It ends up we do a little bit, but not very much. Our focus is dealing with the public, and that's where we put our energy into our marketing and sales. So that's worked for us, but it is tricky on the highly perishable fresh stuff to keep the flow of product going. Whereas, we can put, we just sent 3 beef to the processor yesterday, and it comes back and goes in the freezer, and we can hold it for 3 months, right? Well, you can't hold the fresh stuff.
So does that mean no restaurants, no stores, just only market in the CSA?
Just ourselves.
Yeah, and markets we used to do at one point and the reason we got into whole agri-entertainment in the CSA was because we felt like we were just gypsies, like going from market to market to market to market. Yeah, we did talk about that. And we couldn't handle it anymore. Our children were being raised at a farmer's market, which is wonderful. It's a great education, but we wanted to spend more time with our kids at home on the farm and teach them about the farm, not going from this market to this market and driving here and driving here and driving here. So, and nobody wanted to do markets. Like, the reason we dropped our last market was because I'm the only one, and I really enjoy doing farmers markets, but I'm getting old. I'm going to be 55 tomorrow. So
you admit
I admit it. I'm going to be 55.
Yeah. It's a high energy gig for sure.
It's hard slugging work.
Yeah.
And I am tired and sore by the end of one market, 2 on a weekend in a row. So, and no one else wants to do it. I mean, I'm hiring, young kids to help me out, and they're great, but I need other people to take it over, and it's happening. So we just have to deal with that and progress away from that to something that the rest of the farm management wants to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so let's talk about this. You brought up succession, and we should talk about this more on the podcast. We've only talked about it a little bit because I really feel like we're in another wave of that is about to happen, because there was this whole generation of people who started direct market farming in the 90s, early aughts, like you did, who are probably at that point where they're thinking about it. You have brought your kids on. How did you navigate that process? Like, what was the planning that went into that? What have you had? You've already talked about this a little bit, but kind of let go of. incorporate a new. I can't imagine it's straightforward because it's a personal relationship and also a business relationship now.
It's knowing your kids too. And so I was brought up as a young person, and my parents said, no way, you're not going to farm. Get out of here. Go get a college education. Go do something else. This was the late 80s. Farming's terrible. Right? That was my succession plan. Get out of here. Don't do this. But
Okay.
I forced my way back in after. But the key to that is I did go to college for something else. And I ended up working at IBM for a little bit. And I worked a different world altogether and saw that world. And I realized really, really quick, it's like, I really need to work outside and be with nature and do those things. And I'm pretty entrepreneurial. It never stops going up here. The rat cage is always spinning, so to speak. So I needed that. And that's where the farm really did work out. And I kind of put a proposal to get back into my own family farm, so to speak. And that's how that started. With our own kids, it was the same thing. We always made a point. I'm not going to tell my kids the farm. We're going to make the farm a very positive place. And that's what we've tried to do, is have a lot of fun. Yeah, there's ups and downs. There's no doubt about it. You work with your wife full time. There's an element of crazy. We must both be nuts to do this together all the time and stay married. So try not to be too much, but make it fun, make it positive. We opened the books, especially with our son. He was very keen on numbers right away. So we didn't hold anything back. We showed him the books, the bank accounts, the debts, the positives, the negatives, everything. Like, we've been pretty open book with the kids so they can form their own opinion. But in both cases, they got to chase their own thing too. Like, Trenton went and worked somewhere else. He pursued a professional rugby thing for a while. He moved to the other side of the country, to British Columbia, for a good stretch of time before coming back.
And actually, he went to school for heavy equipment mechanic.
Yeah.
So which, kind of helps us now. But,
Yeah, it's a great skill.
he was exploring that to see whether or not that was the route he was going to go, because there was like a John Deere internship that he could have taken, and he decided to come with us. So
yeah. So, and Kayla, the same thing. She's worked at many different spots as well. And I think that's the key. You have to see how the rest of the world works as opposed to their own crazy family farm. Turns out a lot of family farms are kind of have their own element of crazy to it. I think you have to be a little bit to do this. But they also came, with some proposals and some changes, and we have to be flexible. Like, there was a time with myself and the guys from Mexico, we were punching 90 to 100 hours all the time. Like, that's what we did. And that had to change because we were all burning out. And, the kids said, well, we're coming back. We're not doing that.
This generation is very different, no matter if they're farmers or your office staff or whoever. This generation is extremely different from us and the older generation. They are not willing to give their lives for their work. And we have to be cognizant of that and allow them to kind of set their own parameters for what they feel is an appropriate amount of work-life balance.
No, that's exactly right. So, and that's where how we do scheduling, and it's kind of been good for us because it's dialed us back a bit too.
Yeah.
There was a stretch a long time ago we were pretty unsustainable. So, we changed it and it was for the better. The other side too is to be in farming. So, and my privilege, Lisa's privilege, is we have farms. So we have a 100-acre farm we got in with my parents' help in 93. Then Lisa's parents went, because they liked our place, sold their house in the city and moved out and bought their own farm and rented it back to us. So now we're at 200 acres. My parents had their own 200-acre farm and they're fully retired. So we're doing a transition there as well. So there's the 400 acres. So the land side of it, we've been very, very lucky that it's been affordable to do that. But the key right across the board, none of this was ever done. Any move of land across the family was never done at full market value. It's a family deal. If you are going into this and you build a business and maybe you got a piece of property and you're expecting your kids and it doesn't even have to be your kids. It could be a key staff member that's going to take it over and you expect full market value out of it, you're not moving that farm across. Like, it's just not going to happen. You have to put into context what's important to you and what provides your level of eventual retirement and things we want. But if you look at it, we hear it all the time. These entrepreneurs, they build a business, they cash it out, and that's that. That's not how farms go. Like, this is legacy building a lot. It goes over the generations, So in all cases, it's been family deals within family to make it work. And if anyone ever jumped up and said, I need full market value, well, that would pretty much end it right there. Like, that would terminate out the farm.
Yeah.
Because they're in this area and no different than any urban area where market gardens really thrive near those high urban areas, but that's also high land value areas.
Right.
Very high.
Right.
So that's the part of it. And that's really important. So Trenton so Lisa's parents bought a farm, and Trenton, before he got married, ended up buying his grandparents' farm.
Yeah, I allowed my inheritance to skip me and go directly so that my son could get into farming and it be sustainable for him. Otherwise, we would have just made them sell it and split all the money. But why?
Yeah, because once it's gone, you don't get it back.
Yeah, you can't build more land. You've got to buy it, and you might as well keep what you got.
Yeah, and Trenton and his wife Kelsey now live with their grandparents. They split the house.
No. My parents live with my grandson.
Right.
It's his farm. They live with him. It's very important to make that distinction.
That's sweet, though. What a gift, right?
On the family side, we've always, on both sides, my family, Lisa's family, we've all worked close with family and always have been, and we all get along. So that's a key.
Maybe nobody's cashing out this immense retirement, but they're getting this gift of these relationships, which, I don't know, at the end of the day, that seems like the better option to me.
I agree. For me, I had many of my grandparents die when I was very young. And for that, my two children to have all four of their grandparents still alive at 28 and 29 years old is a gift.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm so thrilled for them to be able to have these relationships with their grandparents. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're not going the other part of that succession, right? So that's nice. Those family, the touchy feely.
Yeah. Okay. We made it sound really good. Is there? What's the harder stuff?
Right? You got to be able to pay the bills, right? Farming's a tough cash flow, right? I think I mentioned it before. You got to have a mind to the equity side of farming. You're going to build equity for sure, but you can't build the equity well unless you have solid cash flow. You got to make something. So having that business mindset and being able to change or pivot or make those tough calls, you can't, if something's not working, you got to change it. You got to do your business analysis. You got to know your numbers, and you got to have good relationships with accountants and lawyers and banks and the whole, you can't ignore those things. So our kids understand that, and they're seeing that, and they're getting involved with some decision making and some consulting and consultants and stuff. So it's getting them involved early. I mean, what's the horror story of farm transition? I see it, especially in the commodity style things. It's like, well, yeah, the dad is 88 years old, and son finally took the books over at 70 years old, right?
65.
Right? Like, not getting them involved. Getting them involved if they're interested super young certainly helps. That young energy makes a big difference too. So
yeah, so many old farmers around here, which, as a person from the city moving into farm life, who still literally, like Steve said, the parents are still signing the checks and their kids are like 60 years old. This makes no sense to me. Like, how can you then, you're going to die, and what's happening? Like, what does your will say? Is it going directly to your child? Is there money that's going to be able, or are they going to have to sell everything?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that happen with farmers here because they don't make a plan. And then there's like, in one case, the majority of the siblings were off the farm. One was still at home managing the farm, but with no legal control, and then lost all of his land base because the other siblings wanted to sell. It's so tragic.
A horror story. Our micro suppliers, that story exactly.
Yep, it is.
No, and that happens a lot. So we've been trying to avoid that. You use terms with, if you have siblings and one of them is not involved with the farm, an equal and fair.
Fair and equal are not the same thing.
You think you get a piece of the farm.
Right, because if one's put in decades of work to make that farm last.
Everybody's been very well aware that if you want a stake in this operation on the equity side, I mentioned the equity side, that you've got to be involved with the farm. If you're not involved with the farm, you're not involved with the equity side. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So I mean, the control part, right? 55, but there is an element where, we're planning ahead, and I think every generation gets a little smarter with their health, like the things we're doing with our health in our 50s, our parents did in their late 60s, and it's benefiting us, and stress is a big one. And, by the time you hit 60, you don't want big stresses. Like, I just want to show up. I'll work 50 hours a week, but you tell me what to do. I'll go, you want me to fix fence? I'll fix fence. You want me to go work on a piece of equipment? I'll do it. But you tell me what to do, and then you go deal with all the red tape and the hard stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Waiting for that dinner, right? I mean, there's lots of people that work off the farm in a full-time job, 40 hours a week, just so they can farm for fun on the weekends, right? So,
right? I know.
That's
It's
what I'll
funny how
do.
we spend our early years wanting to have the control. And then after a while having the control, you're like, actually, if somebody could just tell me what to do, that sounds good.
Yeah, adulting sucks. I'm done. I'm done with it.
It's a lot to carry, especially on a farm. There's so many moving parts, including people and animals and lives in that way.
But like again, yeah, succession. You gotta hand the keys over. You got to be prepared to do it. If you're a control freak, you're gonna
A world of hurt.
World of hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So now that it's more generations involved, looking ahead as a team of 4, what sort of long-term challenges are you anticipating for Cooper CSA Farm, and what kind of steps are you taking to meet those?
I guess it comes down to the long-term goal. If we're going to stay farming in this area, it's how do you make it work on really expensive land anywhere from 35 to 55,000 an acre. How do you make it work? We've already got lots of things in place with a great big population of the greater Toronto area around us. So that's in place. So that works if it's done well. And I think the online platform and local line is working for us, and agritourism is working for us. So it's just keeping that cash flow coming. Everything seems to change, right? And it's staying ahead of that. There's always that growth. Like if you're not growing, you're shrinking, and you don't want to be shrinking. There is no maintaining. So what does that growth look like, and where is it going to come from? And that'll be that's the entrepreneurial challenge, right? Like long term, is it more agritourism? Is it more? We were talking to some friends who were all volleyball players here, and some friends of ours, maybe not Lisa, but the other 3 of us are volleyball players. And friends of ours on their farm put, I think, 5 beach volleyball courts in and are running beach volleyball leagues. And
adult beach volleyball off their farm.
I'm pretty sure because they have a farm store as well, so it's a draw. And I'm pretty sure they added a bar to it as well. So that's a very unique, maybe a stretch, the agrivision of things. But is it something like that to stay in the area? And, if there's a choice to be made that we're not staying in this area and the cash out, but we're going to stay farming, well, we're going to end up on another part of the country. Like it's as simple as that. There's always that attraction to scale, like scaling up, becoming full commodity. We have skill with beef cattle. It's like, well, we have, we could get to 75 or 80 beef cows calving every year now, but we don't have enough ground to go more than that. Do you cash it out, move to Manitoba and go to 500 cows, or Saskatchewan, right? Where the land's much cheaper. Like there's always those things to weigh. We moved away from commodity farming a long time ago because we like the stability of direct marketing, where once you have a customer, you got a customer, and we're in a good area. So those long-term things won't be up to us. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It always changes. I don't think there's you have to expect it to change, and it'll change again.
Yeah, for sure. There's no coasting in farming, that's for sure.
Why not?
I know. Well, I think those of us who stick around, though, I mean, we would get bored, presumably.
100%. You are so right. If I was running around with my computer all the time, I would be just sitting around eating bonbons all day long.
Yeah, I'm like a decade younger than you, it sounds like. And so just a decade behind in all this. But it's an interesting phenomenon to find yourself getting tired, but knowing that if you didn't do all this hard stuff, you would be terribly bored. I'm speaking for myself right now. It's a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would make us not bored is if we could go and just jet off and travel all the time. But A, who has money for that? And B, I miss my family too much.
Yeah,
so
100%. And those relationships you've built, probably you even have customers who become friends and employees. It's like a big family. Yeah.
Yeah.
We still love we still have OG CSA members from 2007 still picking up here that we talk to, and their kids grown up.
2007.
And it's pretty amazing connection that you don't get. If I'm farming in Saskatchewan with just beef cattle, there is no connection to people other than around you and a bunch of cattle and wildlife. Like there is a people side to this. Very, very rewarding. And I tried to tell my farming friends that. It's like, well, when you need a little pickup, those little crayon drawn notes from customers' kids on how much they appreciate their box, you pin that up. It's like, that goes a long way on keeping you afloat too, between the ears.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. We started our CSA in 2006. So yeah, just 1 year before you. And those people are the original people that I still see and get to talk to. It's a special relationship for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So to wrap up, I have a question I always ask people that's kind of tricky to answer, but because our audience is mostly direct market farmers or people who want to be direct market farmers, I ask this impossible question, which, you can answer how you want. So I'm always curious about tips or tricks that we can share with each other. And I like to ask, what's the best thing you and your team have done for your farm so far? Or maybe in the recent year, it could be a decision you made, a tool you bought, just something you would want to pass on to our audience.
I'll let you go first. I know what I'm going to say.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh man, I'm more thinking of an advice type of situation versus anything else. And it's really important that you know how to grow before you start offering your products to customers. So if you just all of a sudden come in and even if you're just a farmer or a brand new farmer, doesn't matter. If you're coming in and saying, okay, I want to do a CSA, make sure you know how to grow some vegetables before you start offering it to people and taking money up front. That's really, really important because we have seen that happen, and we read the horror stories about the customers' complaints of CSAs, and they say, oh, well, I got, about 12 different items all season long, and 80% of my box is kale every week. Kale's great, but that's not what people want all the time. I would just say, if you're going to start, make sure you know how to grow vegetables.
Yeah, get your systems down first.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that. Once you get your systems down, make sure you're not breaking your back. I see too many young farmers, back surgeries, like they're just pushing it so hard, they're physically breaking down. That it's no good to anybody if you can't be out there. So that's the other part of it, to add to Lisa's. The thing I had in our career, when things get hard, right? When things get hard, leave the farm. The best decisions Lisa and I have ever made from a farm. I remember the first time we finally took an all-inclusive trip. We went to Cuba. As Canadians, we can go to Cuba, gorgeous beaches. We're sitting on the beach, and we made the most awesome decisions for our farm, thousands and thousands of miles away from the farm. So absolutely plan those times away. And I'm not talking farm conferences. I'm not talking about those easy things where you see, because you're still going, get the heck off the farm, go far away, take cold, like hard vacation time, even if it's 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, even better. Do it at least once a year, because you will make the best decisions for your farm when you're not worried about everything that's going on in your backyard.
You need to clear your head.
Yeah. And that's over and over and over again for us, where we make the best decisions when we're not involved in the everyday grind.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's also just important for mental health and balancing and all the things. Yeah, all of that. That's just great advice. Well, this has been so fun talking with you, Steve and Lisa. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we sign off?
No.
Enjoy it, because it doesn't last very long.
Yep. The calendar keeps flipping. Make sure you're having fun doing this, that's for sure.
And if you're on the right side of the grass every day, you're in a good spot.
Yes, it's an important perspective right there. How can people find you or Cooper's CSA Farm if they want to connect further or just learn more about what you're doing?
coopersfarm.ca is our website, and they can always send us an email through that, or it's steve-lisacooper@coopersfarm.ca. Super easy.
We got all the socials. There's Insta and Facebook. Cooper CSA will pop up. Kelsey handles a lot of that. But if you send us an email to the email that Lisa just gave you, she answers within, I'll say minutes, but at least an hour. She's very productive on answering emails. So maybe not answering the phone. That's why we won't give you a phone call. But won't give you a phone. Probably won't pick that up. But definitely will answer your note. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time and sharing your experience. I appreciate it.
Thank you
for having us. Yeah. It's been great.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Growing for Market podcast. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider giving us a follow and a rating or review. It really helps others find the podcast. For more tips and information from farmer to farmer, check out our magazine at growingformarket.com. Whether you're a commercial grower or just want to grow like one, subscribe to Growing for Market magazine for the nitty-gritty of growing, marketing, and the business of market farming. We publish 10 issues per year with articles written by experienced farmers on topics ranging from tools and techniques to farm business operations and marketing. If you've been listening to the Growing for Market podcast and you haven't yet checked out Growing for Market magazine, we've made a change so you can try the magazine for free. We've added a free month to the beginning of all first-time subscriptions. Try out the digital or paper magazine, and if it's not for you, cancel within 28 days and you'll never get billed. With digital subscriptions starting at just $39 per year, you get a year of the magazine, plus over 150 back issues from the last 15 years. Head on over to growingformarket.com and subscribe today to benefit from over 3 decades of writing by farmers, for farmers, in Growing for Market magazine.